From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the Evening News Blast. Advocate is reporting a new federal inquiry into television ratings is drawing sharp backlash from LGBTQ plus advocates who warn it could mark a turning point in how the government treats queer representation in media. The Federal Communications Commission, led by Chairman Brendan Carr, this week opened a public comment period on whether existing TV ratings should be revised to account for what the agency describes as gender identity themes. The move, outlined in a formal public notice, asks whether parents are being adequately informed when children's programming includes discussion of gender identity and whether additional labeling or higher ratings may be warranted. The notice points to the current ratings system developed in the late 1990s and questions whether it still provides accurate and sufficient information for families navigating a media environment that now spans broadcast, cable, and streaming platforms. It asks whether content descriptors should be expanded and whether the framework should apply more uniformly across platforms. To critics, the inquiry reads more like a targeted intervention than a routine update. GLAAD, the country's largest LGBTQ media watchdog, responded with a warning that the effort risks singling out queer lives as inherently suspect. In a statement, GLAAD President and CEO Sarah Kate Ellis said the proposal reflects a familiar political logic that LGBTQ visibility requires special scrutiny. Parents should absolutely have a say in what their kids watch, and parents already know that seeing an LGBTQ person on screen or in real life does no harm, Ellis said. What does cause harm is government overreach. Ellis pointed to demographics and realities often absent from such debates, noting that 23% of Americans under 30 identify as part of the LGBTQ plus community and that more than 5 million children are being raised by LGBTQ plus parents. Media companies must be allowed to create and broadcast stories that reflect 1/4 of their audience without interference from a government agency with its own anti-transgender political agenda, she said. At this stage, the FCC has not proposed a rule change. The inquiry is an opening move, a request for public input that could, depending on how the agency proceeds, lead to formal revisions of the rating system. Still, the question it poses are unusually specific, focusing in part on whether shows rated TVY, TVY7, or TVG should carry additional warnings when they include gender identity content. Americans should make their voices heard by submitting a comment that rejects this latest attempt by Brendan Carr's FCC to manipulate the media, erode freedom of speech, and harm LGBTQ Americans, Ellis said. The announcement comes at a particularly fraught time for transgender people whose mere existence has become a flashpoint across American institutions. State legislatures have moved to restrict how gender identity is discussed in schools and libraries. Conservative advocacy groups have increasingly targeted media companies over inclusive programming. This is about more than television, Ellis said. It's about whether a government agency gets to reshape culture, limit storytelling, and undermine free expression. That's the News Blast for this hour. The PEP Radio channel on YouTube offers news updates posted between 1 p.m. and 2 a.m. daily. PEP Radio is available on the Live 365 app, the PEP Radio page at paequality.com, fmstream.org, Radio Line, Streama, Roku, and Alexa. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.